So let's talk about the TIPI device. TIPI stands for TIPI, and it was designed by Matt. Jedi Matt 42 is his handle on Atari Age. He designed this as a project because he could never get a hard drive for his TI. So he built the first TIPI, which is this sidecar device. And as you can see, it has pins and a pin header instead of the usual card edge header. So he also designed this 32K memory card that plugs into the side connector on the TI. And the TIPI plugs right into it. It's always fun getting pins to line up. And becomes a setup on the side of your TI. So this is the original design. You plug in a 5-volt power supply here on the 32K card, and that provides the 5 volts for the TIPI. In this plug here, you plug in a connector that connects to the Raspberry Pi, and that can be a Pi 0, like this one right here, Pi 0W, so you have Wi-Fi, which I just soldered a small connector on the back, and it plugs right in just like this, and you have a sort of standalone unit, and it connects to the internet as well as your TI. It has a USB port on it for connecting up devices like a mouse that can be used on your TI. I'll go over some of those features in another part of the video here. So this is the original. So this guy here, we sold the 32K card first, and then we built and sold the TIPIs later after they were designed and built. The second TIPI that was released was the peripheral expansion box version, which has got a lot of empty space, but there's room on here to attach a Pi 3 or 4. It connects right up here on the board here, just screws onto the board, and then here's that cable we talked about to connect up to the Pi 3. Or you could plug in that Pi 0 right in the back, either one. Pi 3, Pi 4, anything slower than that probably won't work very well. The Pi 0 has been tested as well. This board here was made by the Procuring Academy, who is now currently making the boards in the United States. The original boards were made by myself and Matt, mostly Matt, and then some other boards were made by a gentleman in Europe. So this is the expansion box. Obviously you need 32K in your expansion box to run assembly language programs, and the programs that this supports need assembly language support. So then the latest version of the TIPI is the combo 32K and pull it apart here. For combo 32K and TIPI board. This has the standard connectors on it that we're all used to having on our TIs, and it plugs in the same as places your on the side of your TI, just like a speech synthesizer. In fact, this board was designed to fit inside of a speech synthesizer case. I'll give you a little example. So it fits inside the speech synthesizer case. If I put it in the right way, just like the original board did. So I just happen to have this extra speech synthesizer, so it works out great. And then you can access the Raspberry Pi, if you have a Pi 0 inside, through the front door. And I just happen to have a Pi 0 ready to go. This has the connector at a different angle, so it plugs right in to the board like this. I connect up the 5 volts from the TI through this wire, so you don't even need an external power supply for the Raspberry Pi on this model. And like I said, if you put it inside your case, it just fits in here. I have to go in at an angle. Get in there. There we go. Then again, like I said, you can open up the door and there's, inside the door, there's the Raspberry Pi's SD card and access to it from there. So, that's the latest version. This is a little bit cost reduced, so it's the cheapest of all three. And you can all get all these models on arcadechopper.com. Due to the increase in popularity of SAM's software, which required the peripheral expansion box, I decided to have this sidecar SAMs designed and built, and it's available at Arcade Chopper. This card is functionally identical with the pin header to the 32K that the TIPI plugs into. So I can remove the TIPI from the 32K card, plug it directly into the SAM's card, and use it just the same. The SAM's card has a USB connector instead of the barrel connector that the 32K has. So it takes a different power supply, but I also saw a little adapter that works the same. Otherwise, it's identical.
TIPI installation requires an SD card with the image flashed to it. We recommend using Balena Etcher to create your SD card, and you can download the image from the TIPI support site. The image burn takes a little while, so you also need obviously a SD card reader on your computer, or you can grab a USB one from Amazon for a couple bucks. Additionally, I sell the cards pre-flashed.
Okay, once you have the SD card ready to go, you can plug it into your Raspberry Pi. And power it up. I'm using a Pi 3 in this example here with a cable that I made. You plug the cable into the TIPI. Plug the TIPI into the TI. Plug the power into the memory card. Once the TI is turned on, you can go into Basic and type in call TIPI. And that will load the TIPI configuration tool. TIPI config allows you to set your Wi-Fi settings. It also allows you to map folders on the TIPI drive to be disk 1, disk 2, disk 3, and disk 4. There is no floppy disk emulation on the TIPI. It is just like a hard drive. However, it does do drive mappings, so that way you can use software that only goes to DSK1 to point to the directory on the hard drive that you want. It's pretty interesting. It works with most stuff. Probably 99% of software works just fine. So I'm going to put in my SSID here. And my passcode, and then save it. Now the Raspberry Pi is going to reboot and get an IP address on the internet. So I can see by the light on the Pi that the drive's active and it's blinking. Now if I hit R for reload, the TIPI will wait until the Pi is ready, and then it will get the latest information from it. There it goes. So now I have an IP address on my network. It's also saying that there's an upgrade. The TIPI software is upgraded every time we find an issue with a compatibility or any bugs or any features are added. It is updated on the internet, and then when your Raspberry Pi connects up to the internet and you run TIPI config, it will check to see if there's updates, and you can update by hitting U for upgrade. And I'm going to do an upgrade right now. Upgrades can take anywhere from a couple of minutes to half an hour, and depending on what speed your internet is, it will vary. There's been a couple of questions about upgrades lately because we did some really major upgrade from version 1 to version 2, which upgraded the operating system of the Raspberry Pi, and it also upgraded to a newer version of Python, which is what the software on the Raspberry Pi runs under. It was a significant upgrade, and it did take a really long time. So we recommend that anyone running a TIPI burn the latest disk image, because then the upgrade will only take a couple minutes. Once the update's complete, then it'll say the version number at the top, and I can give you some demonstrations on operating the TIPI. Okay, that took a couple minutes. Now it says upgrade complete at the top of the screen here. And now you are able to see that the Pi version now is 2.8 and there's no more updates. So what I'm going to do now is demonstrate a couple of the built-in features of the TIPI on the computer. So we'll hit quit, computer reboots, and I have a final GROM in here, so I have extended basic, whatever I need. So we're going to go back into basic, and we're going to load in an assembly language program file from basic even without the cartridge. Here, I'm going to take the cartridge out. Start over. Now we're back in TI Basic, no cartridge. Call TIPI net telnet. So there's a telnet program that comes installed on the TIPI drive, which will allow you to telnet from your TI to a server on the internet. It supports 40, 80, or 64 columns, whereas the 40 and 64 are the only two sizes that the stock TI video display processor supports. The 80 columns requires an F18A. So we're just going to log into my my BBS. So I put in the keep.net, port 23, and now we're connecting up to my BBS. So we'll say English ANSI, no ANSI graphics, because this isn't for ANSI graphics. My BBS is supposed to be 80 columns, so this looks like a jumble of text, but you can see I'm logging on. So another cool thing you can do with Telnet, and I'm just logging off here, is you can Telnet to the Raspberry Pi, because it is a Linux computer, and you can use your TI to reach it. So if I go 40 columns and say localhost 23, then it connects up to the Raspberry Pi. The password and username are TIPI. That logs me into the Linux computer that's running on the Raspberry Pi. Then you can do pretty much anything you can do with the local console on the machine. For instance, you can grab a web page. You could, use a CPM emulator on the Pi. Anything you want. So, but I'm not going to show that right now. Exit. Okay, that's Telnet. You could also load programs from the internet. Again, no cartridge here. Call TIPI pi.htp://ftp.whtech.com/TIPI TIPI/DM2K. So I'm going to load Disk Manager 2000 from the FTP whtech.com. So it's going out to the internet and it's grabbing each one of the files, and it just loaded Disk Manager 2000 from the HTTP server. So in Disk Manager 2000, I can go to the TIPI drive and you can see the files that are on my TIPI drive right now, which is just 3 files. TIPI config, and then the net subdirectory, which has telnet. That's what it comes with. And then you can copy files to your TIPI using anything you want, really. You can use a Windows computer. It has a web server built in, so you can use any browser. And it has a file share that you can pull up and map to a drive on your PC. Or you can just use it just like a regular TI and copy files to it from whatever you want. One of the other cool features about TIPI is that it will utilize the devices plugged into the Raspberry Pi as can allow you to access them from the TI. Currently the only ones that work so far are a mouse and there's a printer emulation on the Pi that emulates a printer. So I'll demonstrate a couple of those. So what I'm going to do is go into the web browser. This is Stuart's web browser for the TI. Oh, I got to copy some files, so let me redo that. So I'm going to go to my test page on thekeith.net/TI tests. As you can see, I'm using the PC mouse to move the pointer. Let's see, we can go to the Davis page here. Which has a list of all the other web pages. We can go to Jones here. Pardon the tech talk. He's got a little page with some links and other information about his web pages. The most advanced web page for the TI on the browser is Corey's page, which is myti99.com. It was fun trying to figure out exactly where to click. Oh, I went to the wrong page, but this will work too. This kind of gives you a little example of the graphics that can be done on the web. Click on his nose. The mouse is a little too sensitive. I need to get rid of the mouse. Just a little example of what you can do. Go to myti99.com, which is Corey's webpage. And he has a lot of interesting things on here. You can play his chess game through the web. You can do webmail. You can play Scorched Earth, which is a canon game. You can go to a group chat, which is a web-based chat. You can see people are posting what they've been playing with their TI recently, and I can post a message saying whatever I want. Post, and then And next time someone looks at this page, my message will be there. And I can scroll back by using Q. You can scroll up into the messages. So kind of an example of what the TIPI can do. We can also load a few other programs that he made, called TIPI again, http://mytn9.com/chatty is what I call it. It's chat-ti. This is basically an instant messenger for the Raspberry Pi. You have to create an account on his server with the browser. So you have to start with the browser. Ports 9918. That's my password. Yep, I guess right. So Chatty allows you to chat with other members of the TIPI community. You see I hit R for recent chats. You can see the people I've talked to recently. I can go to Barry here. And of course, it loads. I can send him a message saying it's your turn in chess. And when he logs on, he will see it. And just hit back to get back. There's also an online game called Snake, which is a version of Snake. Which is on mytn99.com. It pulls the high scores from the internet. So whoever gets the highest score gets on the list. Looks like they've run me off the list here. You can play the game. It's basically Snake. Try to get the highest score, etc., etc.
Okay, so to access the web interface, you just go to TIPI:9900. And as you can see, this is my main TIPI drive, so it has lots of stuff on it. It was not the example drive I was showing you earlier. You can see all the folders here at the top, and then the files underneath. If a file has a question mark, that means it's not a TI files format file. It is probably a file for either a PC format file or it's a V99 file. If it's a V99 file, you can click on it with the checkbox, go back to the top, and select Convert to TI Files, and it will convert it to TI files for you. That looked like that one was. So if it's not a TI file, V99 file, it won't convert it. But most files you download from the internet are either TI files or V99, or they're a disk image. If it's a disk image, you can say, hey, I want to copy a disk image to this hard drive. So let's see here. We'll go upload a file, choose a file. We'll get a disk image. I'm sure I have one handy here. Let's see. Yeah, here we go. There's livingtomb.disk. And that will upload it to the TIPI drive. And that will automatically copy that file to the drive, and I happen to know that this file disk name is Warzone 2 because I had just unpacked this recently. So here's, if I go into the Warzone 2 folder, here's Living Tomb. That was the disk name of the disk. It creates a folder based on the disk name, and that was the disk name. So that's now on my TIPI drive, all unpacked and ready to go. It's very convenient. Now you're looking at a file share that I have set up on my computer. You can see here that the T drive is going to //TIPI. This is a Windows computer. If you go to drive mappings, you go map network drive. You can see it's T, and I just went TIPI. That's really it. That connects it up to the TIPI drive, and then I can access these files directly on my PC. The other interesting thing is that Classic 99 can also access these files directly and read and write to them. So if you're running emulation on your PC, you can basically access the same exact files that are on your TI without having to copy anything anywhere. You just map one of your disk drives to your whatever drive you have mapped on the TIPI on, and then you're fine. So I can go in here and I can add files, delete files, change files. I can access the files using TIDIR tool, whatever I want. You see I have a lot of files in my directories, and what I've done is try to organize things is like under games, I have different titles here. I have extended basic and basic games separated. I have editor assembler 3 and 5 versions, and then all the files are in here. So I can load them up whenever I want. Another nice feature is you can edit and view this basic file source on here by clicking the blue icon, and then I can go in here, make changes to this file, whatever I want. It's just a standard editor. And then it will save it to the drive, and that'll load in BASIC just fine. So it's kind of nice for debugging and editing your basic programs. This is a program I got off the internet, and you could just do that. It's kind of a nice feature. Okay, so I'm running Classic 99. I have my disk 9 pointing to the T drive on my PC. And then also to the games EA5 directory. So if I go to disk 9 on Classic 99, and it takes a second because there's a lot of files in that directory. There we go. And now I'm looking at my games folder on the Raspberry Pi's drive, the TIPI drive, and it's the same folder as the TI, so I just ran Pitfall from there. So, you know, if you're doing development, you could easily compile on the Classic 99 and then run it on your real console directly from TIPI in a matter of seconds.